Hi everybody, this is Nancy for Scrapmaina, and this is the FransFormer Snowman class. It's for Copic or alcohol markers. I've based it off of Copics to begin with. That's what I have and what I've been trained and what we've typically done. But you can use any type of alcohol marker you want. This is a very, very simple color. So I want you to feel free to pick any marker. I know there are many out there to choose from. I am looking at, not that I'm looking at, I actually have. I have purchased, if anybody's heard about the Olo markers, and I'll be doing more things that you're going to see more things with Olo from me. I am transitioning a little bit to the Olos. I know that my markers are getting older, my Copics, and sometimes mine went through the derecho, and from the derecho here in Iowa, the pressurization for the length of time, I have some of them that are going bad and need to be replaced. I can replace the nibs and I can refurb a lot of them, but some of them aren't holding a lot of ink. And so this is not a video to talk about the differences between the markers, but we will get into that a little bit later. I think Stacy's investigating and looking at the Olos. But this is an Olo marker. What's unique about the Olo is it does come with a brush tip, which is just like your Copics. It comes with a chisel. I don't have the chisels, and there are many ways to purchase these because this is your marker that you've got. This is the full marker. And what's going to happen is when your marker dries out, you're just going to replace a new barrel of ink with this marker. So there's no filling, you just get the new barrel and plug and play. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you will see a little bit more where I'll be using some of the Olo markers. I just wanted to let you know that I have those and I'm working with those. So it's a nice option that I can add these to my Copic collection because you can use all your alcohol markers together, whether it would be Copic, whether it would be, I think Arteza has one, whether you've gotten a Dick Blick brand, whether you've gotten a Michaels brand, whether you've got the Spectrum Noirs, Altenews, anybody's alcohol markers can be used together, okay? So I have not felt the need to have the other markers in my collection because I have a full set of Copics, and that's what I was trained on and certified on. So there are many more options, but I based this class on the Copics. So I've given you some suggestions, but these are so simple. So you're going to be getting in what you've got in this kit is you've got all 4 of the cards that are stamped, the bases, all the supplies ready to go. So we'll color these up. Okay, so we have the big tall snowman and then these guys here and then this fun guy and this one. So this and this and this image facing to the right, this is included in your kit. So I will kind of pull these over here. And this is the kit that you're going to get. It's going to have written instructions in there, okay? And it has the video link, which obviously you found because you're here, okay? And so you've got the instructions in color. I've tried to give you basic, instructions that you would need to know. I've given you the colors I used at the, to do in this kit, but use what you want. And again, you can see there's not a whole lot of things that for you to choose from. This is really a minimal coloring kit, okay? These are printed on Express It paper. So there's that one thing that they're printed on. So then once you get that out, you'll find that you have a stamp set. Okay, so this is the FransFormer Snow Pop. Okay, You have 2 little pom-poms for the hats if you'd like. You have this sheet, which is from Stampendous. I've used this in the past, but I like this one. I've stamped you a set, and this is stamped on Copic with Memento. In case you want to use these and color some of the little images or color over the words and make it a color, you can. But all you do is just trim out the sentiment that you want. I used Snow Day and Let's Build a Snowman on my sample cards, but you can use whatever. So this is the set. This one I can give you, it's CSL22. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I can probably look that up. That Stacy knows, you know, which one this is if we still have it. Again, I know Stampendous, we've talked about it, was closing down. Things were no longer, but they have been purchased by Spellbinders under their umbrella, and I'm not sure exactly how much of this is going to go, and what's going to stay. And I'm hoping they continue with the FransFormer type of thing, but I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure what the copyrights on that were. So you have that in there. Then you have all the cards and all the card bases and things like that. So I probably don't need to go through all of that for you. But that's what's in your kit, okay? So you have all of that ready to go. All you should need to do is have your markers, some adhesive, let me think here, maybe, yeah, some scissors, a scoreboard, optional foam tape. So that's your kit. So let me show you what's unique about these guys. These cards over there. We're going to color up a couple of them. This is another set that I used also for the winter, for the couple, these are for the sentiment. So they're really nice. So here's what we have on this set. Mine's been well used. I love it. So I just, and always, you saw how I peeled that back. The first time they're going to be very sticky. So I suggest you don't pull this way. I suggest that you take and you pull this part up so you're not necessarily doing anything to these guys. But what's fun about these are that, and again, be careful with it, and you could probably lay it down and pull it. It'll be a little more difficult probably the first time you get your stamp set. But you take it off and look at this fun stamp. This is what makes it FransFormable. I can make a tall, skinny snowman. Okay, I can make a fat snowman. I can squish him down to a puddle. I can use a portion. So here's this guy. He was squished down to be fat. Here this card is. We just use the upper portion of him. And this one is pretty much the same way. Okay, he's just kind of how he came out. Okay, so he's just a basic snowman. This is a 5x7 card, so it's a little larger. So that's what transforms. We have this little hat here. I have a Santa hat. We have a couple of red birds. I used one of them. And then we've got accessories, which is good. So this is the set that you've got. So you've got, I've used the scarf and the mittens on a lot of them. The hat. So we have the mouth. So that's the mouth that comes off. And again, you can take the mouth and you can make it, you could probably even make it a frown if you wanted to. So that's the coal for the mouth. Then you also have the buttons, or the coal for the buttons there. So this is the set that you have. This particular one here is another set, and I used it on one of them, and I did use the accessory of the fun hat there with the snowball on it, okay? So this particular one is the FransFormer Snow Kid, and then the one you got is Snow Pop. And again, this one has lights on it. If you wanted to use this one, it has the Mary. It has some string. There's some samples at the store on this one, or some bows. You could do banners with this across the top. And again, this is flexible, so you could make the banner any way you want and then put all these little banners on it if you'd wanted to. So you can make a banner. I did use the snow. That's a snow bank. So we used the snow bank on this card. And again, this guy is the same way. He comes off and you can make him do different things. He can be squatty, and I used him on this one to face that way, and then I used him on this card. So they're a lot of fun to play with. I mean, you can just, do anything you want with them. So there are lights on this one, and these lights could be used a little bit in a kind of a formation type of thing. So this guy has the eyes, and he doesn't have any like coal for his particular outfit, or for him, but you could use about anything for that. So those are the two. I'm looking for my backer sheet here. These are the two that I used. I may have lost that for now, but that's okay. We'll find it when we get done here. That's for that guy. Okay, it'll show up here. So I would suggest that you might want to try to go ahead and pick up this other set while while you're looking at different types of things. I'm going to stick this over here. I will let you know that it also comes with a FransFormer. These are gnomes. So the gnomes are, you can basically do the same thing with the gnomes. I've used this one, I think, once. So just to let you know that this one already, she's a little more, piece of paper here. This one actually looks like it's kind of got a girl with braids on it, and she's got a flower. But again, none of that stuff is attached, okay? She can be just fat. So all of these little things in here, the braids, the flower, the stars, you can put hands on them. This one's a lot of fun, and this one's not necessarily a holiday one. So we have those also. In the inventory, I know that. I think there's $16.50. I'm not sure if some of them are a little less in price or not. Then also there are FransFormer flowers. Okay, so these are basically, you can move everything. You put different centers in them. The leaves have a little bit of flexibility. This one is FransFormer Peony, and this one is FransFormer Rose. So I'm not sure I don't know that I have everything, but I have a lot of them. So I'm not sure what else is there at the store, but just to let you know what you can do with it. I think once you get the stamp set and you play with it, you'll have a good time. So I'll stamp, just gonna take a piece of paper here, and I'm going to put it in my MISTI with my little sticky mat here. And this is just a piece of A2 paper, and I typically cut them down or do something with them. But again, we can take this guy, and he can actually be over here on this side. Get my magnet out of the way. And we can only have a portion of him showing if we want to. I can make him really tall. Okay, and what I find the best thing is to do, if you get where you think you want him to be at the top, what I do is I shut my lid, and then I'll come in here and I just kind of play with him on my MISTI to see what I want to do. Now, I will tell you, I took him up, and he was fastened. This is fastened, but I'm not above cutting my stamps. I actually kind of cut down so I'd have a little more flexibility with his arms, okay, with his twigs. So, I mean, he's just a lot of fun. But what I do is, if I know I don't want his head to be any taller than that, and I kind of want it there, then I can do that. I can play with his arms a little bit. If you can see that. If it's any better or not. There's a glare. It's going to be off my lights there. But I can move him down. I can sit him like this. I think that's going to take him too far off the paper. But that wouldn't be too bad probably. And I can also maybe just move my paper over this time since I've got him like I like him, but sticky. And that takes him a little too far. So it's kind of positioning what you like, but again, you could do so much with these guys. And that's kind of fun. So what I'm gonna do is, this will go here. I'll just stamp this one up right quick to show you. I need to get a new memento pad. I don't know if we have any or not. This one's leaving all kinds of little strings. And these are so old. I think I just need to throw some of my memento pads away and get new ones because they're just old. Okay, I'm gonna stamp him one more time. He kind of looks like a scooting ghost, but again, I can put some snow at the bottom. I can accent him, okay? Okay, I'm gonna put that. So I've basically stamped him and he's just in a funky shape, like a snowman that's kind of got a blob on him, okay? Now, I can now go in there and I'm going to, it's the right stamp cleaner, and I'm gonna clean this off so I can take it off. And you can tell I've used him because he's definitely showing that I've used him, and he's very, very well inked up. And I can put a mouth on him, and I can put his buttons or his coal, so I can sit those in there. I have found that for me, it's just easier, I think, to do these in steps, okay? So there's his mouth. I don't really think, you know, I could see what it's like to put a frown on his face because he doesn't know. I've not done one like that, so we'll kind of play with that and see what that does. So I've got his buttons there. I'm gonna need to play with this just a little bit. Might be a little bit more than, maybe I want to move the whole thing down just a little bit. That's what I love about this, and then you can just kind of, as I got all my pieces parts here attached. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. I've never done that one before, so we'll just kind of do that. And my paper moved. It's only going to move when I'm on a video, isn't it? Or recording something for you guys. Okay. Let's stick our magnet. So he's got a frowny face, and then I put his buttons on him, okay? So he doesn't have to have any other accessories. I also find that if you're planning on putting any of the accessories on him, like this guy here that has his scarf and stuff, you don't need to put the coal buttons or anything like that on there. And you can also see that on this particular card here, there are no buttons there, but then I chose to use some these fun gems that's what you've got in your kit, which are the spell binders, the smooth disc. You will find them. They are taped to the front of your stamp set. So he's done. I could color him and then I could add things if I'd like, but just to show you, you could just play with these guys and do all kinds of fun things with them. I think the flowers, I have not really played with the flowers much. I think the flowers will be fun, and I'm going to do a little bit, I think, with the gnomes, when it gets to be a little bit more, warmer weather in the summer. So if you're looking, what I also have is, this is a sticky mat. I think Stacy has them. Hers are probably white. Mine's teal because I got it at Stamp Joy. I have one of the Stamp Joy, the Taylor's teal Misties, and then I got the sticky mat there. So that's where that came from. But I do like these sticky mats because they just go right in on top and they help hold the paper down. So I'm done with that now. I've got all my pieces here. My most important thing to tell you, I think, is probably just be cautious with this, and on the first time, peel it gently off, and they're a lot of fun to play with. And like I said, we chose to give you this set because I think it had the most versatility of pieces, and it was really difficult for me because I liked the other set a lot, and I was having a real difficult time picking the one that we were going to give you. So those numbers will be listed. They're on your sheet that you can look at the different ones that were used, or the additional things that you could pick up if you're interested. So these are the cards. Let me put these things off to the side. Okay. So what we're going to do is, I've chosen 2 of them to work on, and it's very, very simple. This one I think is probably the first one packed, depending on what you did with your kit. But I chose again to make this like the sample card that we have right here. And you have a card base, you have a blue panel, and you have a printed panel. And you can see that it does not match up totally, but we're going to talk about that when we get to that point of putting that together. I chose, again, just a bordered hillside to use as a snowdrift. And it's bigger, but you can choose whatever side you want, however much you want. This piece is like 6 inches, and you don't need that much of it, but that way you can trim it. And if you want to trim it down or up, but we'll talk about that. And I chose the Let's Build a Snowman. I did not give you a gem for this, but you might have an extra one in your packaging that I gave you. I did a little bit of making sure that you had them counted out, but I've taped them here, so you might have something extra that you might want to put there. But I wanted to make sure everybody had kind of what I had done, but you may have an extra if you wanted to put it there. So I chose I tend to use some of my favorite colors. And this is really difficult probably for you to see, because snow is what color to you? It doesn't make any difference. What color do you have? If you do snowmen, you probably have a standard color you're going to pick out. So I did the B000 is on the far left, and you can see that it's very faint, and that's only one pass. I just kind of colored that in. BG000, 000, is got a little more green in it. It's blue-green. B60 is one of my favorite colors to use. That's almost what I use primarily all the time. Then you have the C0 and C1. Now again, anything that you layer in once, it's going to look a little darker than what it does to begin with. It's going to dry out. So don't forget, you can always I'm going to put in a little board here and I color, but you can always go in and add another coat to it, okay? So on this particular one, it's looking, I'm sure, a lot more washed out than the sample, and I could always put some more color in there, but I would always do my snowman first, because let's say that this is a large, we're going to use the B60 for this, and this is where if you have the chisel point that works, you could use the chisel point to color it in, but this is where also I've used the technique, and now I don't see what I'm looking for. I have a little piece over here, that if you really needed to use the texturing method with a piece of cloth, you could do that, if that's something that you need to do. I did feature that in my video the other day, but again, I don't use my chisel point very often, but I can use my chisel point here. I want to get around the edges there. Okay, so this is where you could use your chisel point, and I'm just going in and I'm just coloring. Okay, so there's going to be probably some swirls, but I think you get probably a little better coverage that way. I'm going to go a little bit around his arm. It's not going to be as important because we're going to go over that with a brown. So I'm doing everything. You can go right over those buttons, that coal, because that's going to be in a darker gray. So a lot of times I'll just go in here and I'll color this out. And you can use circles. You can see that if I use I get a little bit of a squeaky, little more circles when I'm using the brush nib. So this probably will give you a little more coverage this way. And some of that's going to dry out. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for just a second because it's going to dry down a lot. Okay, it will look a lot different. And I don't see my white cloth, but I have one that looks very much like it, my terry cloth that we talked about, that if I just take this piece of terry and I put a little colorless blender on it, okay, if you think it looks really splotchy, I put a little bit of colorless blender, and this is where, again, that you can just go in, and I don't know if you can see that I've kind of laid in there a little bit of, I'm just kind of going in and dabbing it. You want to do this before you do anything else, but it's going to take away a little bit of that, but it may get rid of some of your lines. So I'm just using, it's a washcloth. This one's I've used several times with different colors. I do have one that's someplace here that's much cleaner, but somehow I don't find it on my desk right now. But I use a pretty good grade of washcloth, and I usually always buy whites and just cut it into pieces and just roll it up. You could put alcohol on it if you don't have colorless blender, but again, that gives a little bit of texture, but it also might help if you think that you're just getting really splotchy colors. And you want to use, I think, for this large, you want to use a well-inked marker. So there is, that's a beat, I use B60 on that, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to use is something orange, and again, a lot of times I choose to put a little bit of accent. This is a YR09, and I'm going to use the YR09 just down at the bottom, just a little bit, and a couple on those spots. Let me see if I can give you a little bit more there. That may be a little better for you. And then I've got my YR04, and I'm just blending in this for the carrot nose. Any orange that you like, a single color is perfectly fine. You don't have to use the second color, okay? I chose to use a blue hat, So the blue hat is I use a B21 and a B24. And what I do is my darker colors on the edge, and I try to leave just nothing but a white edge and bring that together. So this is my B24. And what I'm going to do is come in and bring the B24. And I'm just making sure that I've got an outline of it. And I'm going to bring a little bit on this side. Okay. For some reason, I think I might have used a little bit darker color, but I can go back over this again with the same color. And by doing that, it's going to add a little more depth. I didn't want them to be too different in color. Okay. Now this is B21, and I'm going to come together here, try to leave some more of that white, and get this to blend just a little bit. And I just have a small little glass mat that we have at the store. I typically have my Tim Holtz mat underneath here, but filming it gives you a tremendous glare when I'm coloring. So I'm going to use this small little glass mat and just pick up a little color that I put there just to help this blend. I put down the B24 just to get this to blend a little bit better and help my transition. I am a palette blender through and through. So I've still left that white for that highlight, and I can come in here. I've actually got like another B000000 marker here, and I could actually just color that in a little bit to see if that's gonna help. I want to still leave a highlight there, but give me a little bit of color, but I don't think I like that. So I'm gonna go back and so it's like, what markers do you have? How closely can you get them? I am barely kissing the paper right now by putting that color in there because I want that highlight to stay. Okay? I want it to look like there's definitely a highlight. And this could actually be a 3 color. I could go back probably and even put I could put the B26 in there and pick up some more, but I'm happy with that, okay? I chose to just have a little bit of a dark, like brim on the hat. So I'm gonna take a C7 just to put some color down. And then I'm going to take my C5 with the proper end, if I look at my markers, and I'm blending that out. Okay, and there's still a little bit of highlight there. Now, while I've got these out, this is the C5. I'm going back in here and just dotting in his mouth and into what I would consider maybe the coal that his buttons are. I don't know that I need to make them really dark. They need to appear to be black, and that will suffice to do that, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is I will take the E25. I'm not paying attention to my markers. And I'm going to come in here and just do the limbs, the sticks that are his arms. And I'm just putting a little bit of a darker color at the tips. And then right down where they kind of join the snow. Okay. And then I will come back in with my E23 and just fill that in. Okay. Okay. We're done. We've colored them up. Now, I put a tiny bit, when I finished my project, I put a tiny bit of glossy accents. You can feel that on that and on the buttons when I was done, okay? So this is basically done. And what I want to do is I want to take this, boy, I have a giant tape gun, don't I? I'm just putting tape on it, and I'll kind of do it a little bit off screen so it's not so much up in the camera. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to attach it to the blue, and I am attaching it, matching it at 1/4 of an inch up towards the top, okay? So there's more of a border down here, and that way you can, you know, you can see kind of what I'm doing. Now, let me see, I bring you back out again there. And let me see, we'll put you up just a little bit more. I want to do a little bit more for you. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. I told you that in the instructions. I'm going to take my MISTI back out, okay? I'm going to take the pads out of my MISTI. Now, I am what you call a left litter, okay? And the MISTI, I think, is somewhat set up to be the other way, possibly. But I'm gonna just do it this way because it's easier for me. I need this finished piece, this is one way you could do this, to be 6 3/4. So I can come down here on my MISTI at 6 3/4 and I can adhere this piece, okay? So I've got it up in the corner. This needs to be 6 3/4. So I'm coming down, I'm looking at this, how far I want it to be, what I want. This is where my Let's Build a Snowman, this is very similar to what my card actually looks like as the sample. There's this, I cut a fair amount of that off, but you can move it over if you want, if you had a blob. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly at the 6 3/4, but it's pretty close to 6 3/4 is what you needed to go on the 5x7 card, okay? So that's one way you could do it, and how I would do it is I would tack a little bit where I decided I wanted it on the top here edge, and I would put it in, and because you can match it up with your lines. That's what's nice about the grid, and then you can put it on there. So I probably, if I was gonna do, I would put it something like that, okay? So then it would be down, and then I can take it out and trim out the corners, okay? So that's one way that you can make this work, okay? If you don't like that particular way, the next thing you can do is you can take your card base, okay? You can take a ruler on your card base, and you can measure, as I pull some of my things off so my ruler can go. You can measure a 6 3/4 and take a pencil and lightly put a mark at 6 3/4. You can take a T-square and draw if you wanted to. I'm just gonna measure again at 6 3/4 lightly, okay? So I have a couple of marks here, okay? Now what I can do is I can place my image, and if you had a little bit of repositionable tape, like just a teeny amount, you could put just a little bit of tape just to secure this. What I did like about the MISTI, if you were trying that, you could use your magnet. But I've just barely put that on there. Then I can take my snow bank and I can match it on those bottom lines, and I can decide where I like it, what it looks like. You know, do I like it there? Do I want it over a little bit more? Do I want this to be a little higher here? So again, you can jockey it whatever way you would like to jockey it. That's the thing you can do. So again, we have it on there. What I would do is I would take, I have this little tape runner here, so I'll just use it and just go, I'm putting some tape on the top of the snowbank, and I'm matching up my lines down here where they are. I'll do it like that. Let's see, I want it to, there. Now I can remove this. Kind of get rid of that tape. Okay, and then what I can do is I'll take my trimmer and we'll trim those sides off. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You may find there's an easier way for you to do it even yet. Okay, have stuck there, and then I would go up here and bring it down here on the bottom of my trimmer, and that. So that's how I'm making it long enough. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm trying to do some space saving on the paper, and so that does help. And I would attach this. I somehow, again, I'm not as prepared. I don't see my eraser. So I would erase those two little spots there. Then I would attach this. I attached it with foam tape, okay? And then I put put my little snowman there with foam tape. And again, you could put blue on the snowflake, and then I put the gems in the middles of the snowflakes. So this is done, super simple. Again, this was some of that new paper. I think it came from Paper Cuts. I know it looks more like Pooly, but I thought it was kind of fun for the snowbank. And that just was easy for me to, again, think about saving a little bit of paper on my blue, because I would have needed to make that a little bit longer and then attach on the front. So that is that card there. I'm not going to go ahead and put all the pieces parts on it. I don't think that's, needed. I don't think you need for me to show you that. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, the other one that we have is this guy here, and I did Snow Day, and I have this, and I'm using this particular one because it was smudged, because I smudged it, and I can do that. Now on this one, you'll again score your card base. The other one, again, you needed to score, as your instructions said. You'll score at 5 on the 10-inch side. This is an A2 with a top folding, which is 4.5 wide by 4.25 wide by 5.5 tall. So you'll need to score that at the 5.5. You have a 6x6 piece of paper, because there was no reason I wanted this to be a total card front cover. So there was really no reason for me to give you anything else other than that. I mean, so you just take your 6x6, and how I do it, this is my way. You do you. I find that I do better by putting a piece of paper on and trimming it out, better than trying to give you an exact piece and making it all match up. I know that sometimes that's not as easy. So here's another one. You can do this with your scoreboard, or you can do this with your MISTI, okay? I'm sure you've seen this trick before, that I can take this card, I can stick it in the corner of my MISTI. I can take this paper and I'm putting it down on that card, so I've got it matching. Now, I have to trim off the sides of it, but that was just stick your card in the corner, let it down, put your paper in and I just kind of, again, I take it to the corner and I roll it down so it doesn't get stuck. I put the adhesive on my card front first. So another great use, you can do that with your scoreboard, or you can do that with your MISTI, either one. Just find yourself a right angle, like a corner like that. Okay. So now I would need to trim this off. I can do it with my trimmer. You could stick it in your trimmer. I seem to do better by turning it over on the back side, and I just choose scissors and I can make it work. That's the way I like to do it. Again, you have a 6x6, I just use a scrap, so I've covered my card front. Okay, so that's ready to go. So here is your image here. This is what you should have. I chose Snow Day. Once again, you choose anything that you want. I chose Snow Day. And then you also have the scarf, you have the mittens, and you have the hat. And to save time, I already colored and cut, but we'll do a little bit of it, of my scarf and my mittens, okay? So this guy has a little bit of a ground, and on this one, I colored it multiple times over, and this one was with, again, you could use whatever color you want. I chose just to use my B marker with this paper. It was a little grayer, or you could go into a gray tone. I do believe that the C markers are better to use for snow than the other ones, or maybe even just your neutrals or your T's, but I wouldn't use my warm markers to do that, okay? So what we're gonna use for this is we're gonna use the B. I'm going to try to go this other end. I'm going to use, I don't know if I can give you a little bit more. There we go. Hopefully I'm not making you sick. I'm going to use the B000 on this. And again, I have my chisel point out. And again, you could color over that. It isn't going to make any difference. And you notice there are no no buttons on this. This would be really, really cute. Also, if you... I think sometimes brads are coming back. If you had old brads or you had tiny little buttons, this guy could be decorated up so many ways. You could cut this guy out, which we will, and you could actually tie a piece of felt or something like that. I know there are a whole bunch of snowmen. They've been really, pretty popular. There's a Taylor one. What's the other one? It's MFT, I think, is the other one that you can build all those snowmen, and there's parts to them. So there's lots of snowmen out there, but there may be parts that you can interact, cut them out of different things. Again, you could just tie a bow around him. So I'm going over him pretty well. Okay. And I think he's not going to be that blue. He looks pretty blue now, but I know he's really wet because I can see through him. And we'll see what he does. Okay. Now I'm going to do my carrot nose. And again, I'm going to take a little bit of this darker color. Now again, this is the Snow. This is Snow Kid. This is that stamp set, the Snow Kid. This is the YR04. The other one was YR09. I'm using YR04. And just coloring in that part. Okay, then we have his limbs, or his like stick arms, okay? Again, I'm going to take a little bit of this color there. I actually did that one the whole way, so that's fine. We don't have to make it two-tone. Okay. And we'll put a little bit of C5, and you wouldn't have to do anything, but I'm just dotting a little bit of the, what I would say would be coal. Okay. He's done. So now we're going to go down here to the bottom, and again, you can do the same color. He's actually mellowing out a little bit. I can use the same color. I could go in with like a C1, and we could see what that's going to do. And for some reason, my C1 marker, there it is. Let's see, I'm gonna put, this is just giving us a little bit more definition. I'm just coloring again. I will have one smudge, but that's going to cover up with my sentiment there. I think this was at the very end of my process. So that's C1. If I want to come back in here and add a little and soften the C1, I'm coming back in with my B000 that I did my snowman with, and I'm just going back over that and layering that. Okay. So that's kind of what it's going to look like on the card, which works. So then I am going to color my hat, and I'm going to I already colored these guys and cut them out. So I've got a Y15, a Y17, and we might add a little bit of my Y35. And this is the interesting thing. I just saw that this little cap thing, that could be something too, that my cap may not be sealed. If you see that, I've never noticed that it's kind of off center, which is odd. So what I'm going to do is I had chose to color this kind of all yellow, and then I put some white dots on with my Signo white pen. So I can vary, this is my lightest color. I can come in here and actually color the entire thing. And you can, but we're gonna cut it off, but you can go down into that section because it won't make any difference at this point because we'll cut that off. Getting that first coat on there. Here's the Y17, and again, it's gonna have a little bit more color where it's kind of bunched here at the bottom, and there might be a little bit of color over here, kind of just in the corner, but that's not going to be too much. Okay. Then we're going to come in and feather that out a little bit. See what it looks like when it's dry. And I don't do anything to the ball as the instructions say. I use a clear wing Castella, and then in your kit you have these little pom-poms. I did not use it on this card. I used it on this card here, put one there, but I did put wing Castella underneath it. You can choose to do it here. I gave you two. You can choose not to use any of them, okay? So it's drying out. It's looking good. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this out. And I'm cutting this right on the line. When I'm adding accessories, you can do that. Now, I did some masking on some of your other cards, okay? I chose not to mask this. I had to mask a little bit on the first card that we did to get the hat on. I did some masking to get this hat on here. So I wanted to show you, and the masking wasn't that difficult. You just need to make sure that you stamp like a piece of masking paper or like a Post-it note or something like that, just to cover up the snowman, the top of his head. So I did a little masking, and if you were doing mass producing, it would be much easier at that point. So I just kind of did some really kind of fun scallopy thing around that. Okay. And then I am just going to take this and cut right there on that black line. Okay. So to save you from having to watch that, I've got these cut right here. So what I'm going to do is, I've showed this before, when I cut on the black line, I have a Memento dual marker. It's a black water-based marker that's got a felt tip. You could probably use a Tombow. I like to go on the edges of what I cut, just really carefully. You didn't see that probably there. And I like to just kind of go around it just to get that kind of that white edge off. I think I can do this by hand here. So I'm just holding this. These are the mittens that I cut out. That just helps the edges. And I'm just being very careful on that. Going around, just getting those edges. I've also got one of these markers in a dark gray. You could do that. I think I have one that's in a bluish kind of color, which again, just something dark. You probably would never know that. And then the scarf. Now the scarf, I'll get to this here. I'm going to go ahead and do this around. Now I'm not doing down along the fringe. Sometimes when I get this corner, I just have to be careful with my little point and go around, but I'm not going to do around the bottom of the fringe. I don't need to emphasize that. And around. Okay, so I've done those. So now what we need to do is, I've got my pieces, parts there. I need to take this particular image here, and when I'm cutting something like this, I cut just on the outside of the black line. There. Let me see if I can go back out. I don't want to go there. You are. A little bit more like that. So I don't have to cut so strangely. And this snowman has a funky shape, so you can just kind of wiggle. I'm kind of wiggling it as I go. And I'm coming up here, and I'm just cutting these guys off there because we're going to put mittens on them. And again, you could cut off the arms like right here. As a matter of fact, we can just cut those off right there because you can put mittens on it. So you don't need those little arms. I did find that this guy tends to stick out, and on this one we can cut him off. On one of the other cards I can show you, we can actually just use a white pen and you can cover that up. You could wipe it off if you know beforehand that you're going to put mittens on it. It gets the hands are just a little bit, the branches are a little bit long. Okay. So this guy, I'm just going to come off and kind of cut those off there because I really don't need those because I'm going to put the mittens on. Okay. Okay, so you can tell that my snowman has definitely mellowed out from when I first put him on there, okay? So basically he's gonna fit right down here at the bottom of the paneled. You're pre-done, you've already made your card base. You could use liquid adhesive. I am just going to quickly put some tape on there. And he's going to go down here. Always be sure you got your card opened at the right place. Okay. So there he is. He's on there like that. Now I'm going to use some liquid adhesive, and I'm going to put his mittens on. And let me see if I've got some tweezers here. And I'm going to stick this mitten. I'm going to actually pull it down to that. There's a joint right there. Okay. Okay, I've put this one on. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put this guy right there. Okay. If you want to bring this down to make it look, you know, like a little further, you can. Then his hat's going to go on here just like this. okay? You can put the hat underneath if you want, but it can go right on here like this. And you match it up by putting it on his head, okay? Like that. And then we have a scarf. Now, you can see that his scarf is too big. So what I did was I just cut it off at a joint that I thought would work. I look at how far I want to cut, where I want it to go, and I could cut it off there. Let me see what happens on this, because actually that sample, you can see this guy here, he's narrower than this one. This was my first sample, but when I made all the cards for you guys, it was a little bit different. So it's going to go right there. So you can see, if you make them, they're probably not going to be the same. I got him a little bit taller than I did on your sample, on your cards. So what's nice is you can cut the scarf off and make it the size that you need it to be. And again, there was no need to put any coal or anything like that. So there's my scarf. Okay. Now what I will do is I would put foam tape and I would cover up this blemish that I had there. There's a snow day. And then I could choose to put the pom-pom up there or just do the Wink Estella. You could put glossy accents on his eyes. And then what I did is I just chose a few snowflakes to put the gems in the center. So that's the basic of those two cards. There's really nothing going to be monumental about the other ones. I just wanted to kind of show you and bring out the points. I wanted to show you on this one, again, how I lengthened that, and that using different colors. And you can see that this is the one I did tonight, and this one is a little darker than this one. But again, the colors, they're both the same colors. This one is what we just did, and he's a little bluer. It's really difficult because this guy's washed out a tremendous amount. But that was the sample that I made for the first part. There is nothing about this card. You have two mittens. Now I did these, and I wanted to show you that on this particular one, it's just like I cut the limbs off. This guy on that other card, but because this is stamped, now again, if you're going to put the mittens on there, you could probably wipe your stamp off and not color as much, and not put as much on when you stamp it. And this one covered up. But what I can do is I have a white, like, gel marker, Signo marker. I just went over that, and you don't even know. I mean, when it dries, no one would ever know that I even covered that up. And then I got the little birdie sitting there. So everything here is stamped. I did a little bit of masking on this to put the hat straight on there. Some of yours look a little, again, different because this is the original sample, and how I stamped it was maybe going to be a little different on that. So there's nothing on that one. And this one, again, is a straight color. Here I have his little twig sticking out on that again because it was there. He has mittens and a scarf on. Okay. Your Let It Snow, again, this Let It Snow has got some breaks in it, so don't think that I didn't give you a good sample because that's the snow. It's Let It Snow. That Let It Snow came out also of this stamp set, which is from the FransFormer line, because you can basically move these guys and do them in circles, but they're called snow lines. I think we still have maybe that stamp there. So these are your 4 cards that you have to put together. Clean off my space here so we can actually just address the cards that you have. I hope you enjoy the kit. It's a lot of fun. Again, pieces, parts, you can move them, you can do partial things, you can just do little snowmen peeking out of something. And again, don't forget to pick up the set that goes with it, the companion set. We have those at the store. I think they're $16.50. And consider, we may go ahead and post some of the other ones, you know, relatively soon when this kit gets into the store. And that way you can see the different FransFormers that are available. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for purchasing the kit from me. Please don't hesitate to call me or get in touch with me if you have any problems. I've provided you with my phone number, which you can call or text me, and my email. So if you have a question about the kit, it would be good to call me and not call the store where they have to call and find out. So if you've bought a kit from me before, or if you've got any problems getting into the link, I can possibly try to help you with that and email you the link so you can just paste and stick that. So again, if you're here, you've probably already got that information. Thanks for joining me, and have fun with your FransFormers.